The small human ship moved slowly through space near the edge of human territory. Its name was Safe Journey, and it carried only 12 people. Most were workers going to the mining colonies on the far planets. The ship was old but clean, and it had been flying the same route for many years without any trouble. Captain Thex watched the human ship on his screens from his hiding spot behind a large asteroid. His ship, the Crimson Talon, was much bigger and much more dangerous. Thex was a Velkari, and his people were known across the galaxy as pirates and slave traders. They had gray skin that looked like metal, and their eyes were bright yellow. Thex had been a pirate for 30 years, and he thought he knew everything about hunting other ships. "Look at that," Thex said to his crew. "A human transport with no guards, no weapons, just sitting there like a gift waiting for us." His first, Officer Grix, checked the scans again. "Sir, there are adults and young ones on board." Thex smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Even better. The young ones will bring good money from collectors. Humans are exotic pets now, very popular." The Velkari had never fought humans before. They had heard stories, but stories were just stories. Thex thought humans were weak because they were small and had soft skin. He had captured many other species before. Humans would be no different. On the human ship, Minho sat with 2 children in the passenger area. Jiho was 8 years old, and Nari was 6. They were traveling to meet their parents who worked on a mining station. Minho was supposed to keep them safe during the trip. He looked like a normal freight worker in his simple clothes, but his eyes were always watching everything around him. "Uncle Minho," Jiho said, "why do you keep looking at that screen?" Minho smiled at the boy. "Just checking our route, little one. We should reach your parents soon." But Minho was not really looking at the route. He was watching for danger. His real job had been keeping people safe, and old habits never died. Something felt wrong about this empty part of space. The attack came without warning. Red lights flashed everywhere as the Crimson Talon dropped its hiding and pointed its weapons at the human ship. The human captain tried to run, but it was too late. The pirate ship was too fast and too strong. "This is Captain Thex of the Velkari," came a voice over the radio. "Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Do not resist, or we will destroy your ship." The human captain had no choice. The Safe Journey stopped moving and waited. Minho quickly pulled Jiho and Nari close to him. "Listen to me very carefully," he whispered. "Bad people are coming on our ship. Stay close to me and do exactly what I say. If we get separated, remember everything I taught you about staying safe." "Are we going to die?" Nari asked, her small voice shaking. "No," Minho said firmly. "Humans don't give up easily. Your parents are waiting for you, and I promise to bring you to them." The Velkari pirates cut through the ship's door with laser tools. They poured into the ship like a gray wave, carrying energy weapons and metal chains. They were bigger than humans and much stronger. The human passengers had no weapons and no way to fight back. Captain Thex walked onto the human ship and looked around with satisfaction. 12 humans, he said. "Good health. This will be profitable." His pirates forced all the humans into a line. They put metal bands around their wrists that would shock them if they tried to run. Thex walked down the line, looking at each person like they were animals at a market. When he reached Minho and the children, he stopped. "Interesting. 2 young ones. They will bring special prices." "Please," Minho said calmly. "Let the children stay with me. They're scared and need someone to care for them." Thex laughed. "You think you can make demands? You are cargo now, human. The young ones will be kept separately. Easier to control them that way." This was Thex's first big mistake. but he did not know it yet. Two Velkari pirates grabbed Jiho and Nari. The children cried out and reached for Minho. "Uncle Minho!" "It's okay," Minho called to them, his voice still calm but his eyes turning hard. "Remember what I taught you. Be smart. Be strong. I will find you." The pirates dragged the children away to a different part of their ship. Minho and the other adults were locked in a cargo hold that smelled like metal and fear. But Minho was not afraid. He was thinking. In the 30 years he had been a pirate, Thex had captured thousands of beings from dozens of species. He knew how to break their spirits and make them obedient. Fear was his best tool. Take away their hope, separate them from their loved ones, and they would do anything he wanted. But Thex had never captured humans before. He did not know that human children were taught to be clever and resourceful from a very young age. He did not know that separating human young from their protectors was like lighting a fire instead of putting one out. Most importantly, he did not know that Minho was not just a freight worker. For 15 years, Minho had been part of the Terran Special Forces. He had fought in wars that most people never heard about. He had learned how to survive, how to escape, and how to make enemies regret their choices. As the Crimson Talon flew away from human space with its prisoners, Thex felt very pleased with himself. He was already thinking about how much money he would make. He was planning which markets would pay the most for human slaves. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. In the cargo hold, Minho sat quietly while the other prisoners cried or begged. He was listening to the ship's sounds, learning its rhythms, and making plans. The pirates thought they had captured helpless victims. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Commander Vex was drinking his morning coffee when the news reached his trading station. The coffee was from Earth, and it was one of the few human things he truly enjoyed. Vex was a Zephyrian, with blue skin and 4 arms, but he had learned to love many human customs during the war. His second-in-command, a young Zephyrian named Kel, rushed into his office with excitement on his face. "Commander, great news! The Velkari pirates hit a human transport ship near the rim. They captured the whole crew, including young ones." Vex's coffee cup shattered on the floor. His 4 hands were shaking as he grabbed Kel by the shoulders. "What did you just say?" Kel looked confused by his commander's reaction. "The Velkari caught humans, sir, with young ones. We could sell this information to other pirates who want to avoid that area, or maybe to the humans if they pay enough." "You captured human young? Are you insane?" Vex roared so loud that everyone in the station could hear him. His voice carried a terror that made Kel step backward in fear. Vex had fought alongside humans in the Proxima War. He had seen what they did when their people were threatened. He had watched human soldiers fight against impossible odds to save, even one of their own. But when human children were involved, humans became something else entirely. Something that gave nightmares to veteran warriors like himself. "Sir, I don't understand," Kel said. "They're just humans, small ones. What's the problem?" Vex sat down heavily in his chair. His blue face had turned pale. "Kel, in all your years working with me, have I ever shown fear?" "No, sir, never." "I am terrified right now." Vex looked at his screens and began typing fast. "Get me every contact we have in the criminal networks, everyone who trades information, everyone who buys stolen goods, everyone who might know where these pirates are going." "Why, sir?" Vex stopped typing and looked at Kel with eyes that had seen too much war. "Because in a few hours, maybe less, the humans are going to turn this entire sector into a hunting ground. And anyone who helped these pirates, anyone who knew about this and didn't stop it, anyone who was even in the same system, they're all going to die. Kell still looked confused. But, sir, humans are peaceful traders. They make good food and nice music. They're not warriors. That's what everyone thinks, Vex said, going back to his typing. Right up until someone threatens their young. Then you learn what humans really are. Vex remembered the Kepler station incident. Pirates had attacked a human colony ship and killed several human children. The Terran response was swift and absolute. 3 entire pirate fleets just disappeared. No warnings, no negotiations, no survivors. The humans hunted them down across 12 star systems and erased them from existence. Listen carefully, Vex told Kell. Send a message to every criminal contact we have. Tell them to stay away from anything involving humans for the next 6 months. Tell them if they see Velkari ships to run in the opposite direction. Tell them the hunting season just started and they don't want to be the prey. On Earth, in the Terran Navy headquarters, Admiral Ha-Yun was in a meeting about supply routes when her aide rushed in. The aide, a young woman named Subin, looked pale and worried. Admiral, we have an emergency transmission from the Outer Rim. Ha-Yun read the message on her screen. Her jaw tightened as she saw the list of captured passengers. 2 children. Human children. Get me fleet command, she said quietly. But everyone in the room could hear the anger in her voice. Full mobilization. I want every ship we can spare ready to move in 1 hour. Ma'am, said her aide, should we try diplomatic channels first? Maybe we can negotiate for their release? Ha-Yun looked at the young woman like she had said something incredibly stupid. Subin, do you have children? Yes, ma'am. A daughter. If someone took your daughter and put her in a cage, would you want to negotiate? Subin understood immediately. No, ma'am. I'd want them dead. Exactly. But we're not just talking about one parent here. We're talking about the entire human species. Those pirates just threatened our young, our future, our most precious thing. Ha-Yun stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the naval yards. There won't be any negotiations. Word spread through human space faster than light itself. Ships' captains changed their routes to join the hunt. Mining stations sent their security ships. Even merchant vessels with basic weapons started moving toward the search area. Captain Taman was carrying grain to the Centauri colonies when he got the news. He immediately turned his ship around and started flying toward the last known position of the pirates. His ship wasn't built for fighting, but it had some weapons and a good crew. That would have to be enough. Commander So-Young left her patrol route along the border without even asking for permission. She knew her superiors would understand. When human children were in danger, every human had a duty to help. Back at Vex's trading station, the messages were flowing in from all over the criminal underworld. Pirates were canceling jobs. Smugglers were hiding their ships. Information brokers were refusing to trade anything related to humans. Sir, Kell said, reading the responses, everyone is scared. But why? Humans have never shown this kind of response before. Because humans have never had their young taken before, Vex explained. Other species, when you threaten their children, they get angry. They might fight back. But humans don't just get angry. They get systematic. They turn it into a science. Vex pulled up old war records on his screen. During the Proxima War, I watched a human unit march through enemy fire for 6 hours to rescue one wounded soldier. Not a leader, not someone important. Just one soldier who was hurt and calling for help. They lost 20 people saving one. That seems wasteful, Kel said. That's what we all thought. Until we realized what it meant. Every human soldier knew that if they fell, their people would come for them, no matter what, no matter the cost. It made them fight like they were immortal. Vex shook his head. Now imagine that same response, but for children. Not just one child, 2 children. The humans won't just send soldiers. They'll send everyone. News of the capture was reaching other species, too. The Zephyrian Council called an emergency meeting to make sure none of their people were involved. The Altarian Trade Federation sent warnings to all their members to avoid the sector entirely. Even species that didn't like humans were staying away. Everyone remembered what happened to pirates who made the humans angry. On a mining station, 3 systems away, a Velkari information broker named Corvin was packing his belongings as fast as he could. He had just heard about the capture, and he knew what was coming. Corvin had never hurt human children. He had never even seen human children. But he was Velkari, and that was enough. The humans wouldn't ask questions about which Velkari were innocent. They would just act. "Sir," his assistant asked, "where are we going?" "Far away from here," Corvin said, throwing data chips into a bag. "Maybe to the Andromeda Galaxy, maybe further." "Why are we running?" "We didn't do anything wrong." Corvin stopped packing and looked at his assistant. "Have you ever seen what happens when someone hurts a human child?" "No, sir." "Good. Let's make sure you never do." The word was spreading everywhere now. The humans were coming, and they were bringing everything they had. Fleet ships, merchant vessels, mining equipment converted into weapons platforms, even civilian shuttles with hunting rifles mounted on them. But the most frightening thing of all was not the ships or the weapons. It was the humans themselves. Across their entire space, humans were dropping everything they were doing to join the hunt. Parents were leaving their jobs. Students were leaving their schools. Even human children were asking how they could help find the missing ones. The galaxy was about to learn why threatening human young was considered one of the most dangerous mistakes any species could make. The hunt was beginning. Jiho and Nari sat in the dark cargo hold of the Crimson Talon, holding each other's hands. The room smelled bad and was very cold. Other stolen goods were stacked around them like boxes and strange alien artifacts. The Velkari pirates thought putting the children here would make them scared and helpless. They were wrong. "Nari," Jiho whispered to his little sister, "do you remember what Uncle Minho taught us about being in scary places?" Nari nodded, wiping tears from her face. "Stay calm. Look around. Find ways out. Find ways to fight back." "Good girl." Jiho smiled even though he was scared too. "Uncle Minho said that being small means we can go places the bad guys can't. We need to explore this ship." The children had been left alone because the pirates thought they were too young and too frightened to cause any trouble. Captain Thex's crew was used to dealing with adult prisoners who would try to escape through doors or over power guards. They never thought about 8-year-old humans who could fit through air vents. Jiho found a loose grate near the ceiling. He was tall for his age and could reach it by standing on some boxes. "I can get this open," he told Nari. "Uncle Minho showed me how these things work." The air vent was just big enough for the children to crawl through. They moved very quietly, like Uncle Minho had taught them during their games. But these weren't games anymore. This was real. As they crawled through the ship's air system, they could hear the pirates talking. Jiho listened carefully and started to understand how the ship worked. The pirates were complaining about problems with their water system and their lights. That gave Jiho an idea. "Nari, he whispered. "Remember when Uncle Minho showed us how the water recycler works on our ship?" "Yes. He said if you put soap in the wrong place, it makes everyone sick." "Exactly. And he showed us where the light controls are, too." The children spent the next few hours moving through the ship like little ghosts. They found the water recycling plant and carefully added cleaning chemicals from a maintenance closet. Not enough to kill anyone, but enough to make them very uncomfortable. Then they found the lighting control room. Jiho had watched Uncle Minho fix lights before, and he remembered which wires did what. He changed the settings so the lights would flash on and off very fast. Uncle Minho had told him that flashing lights hurt alien eyes much more than human eyes. By the next day, half the Velkari crew was sick to their stomachs from the bad water. The other half had terrible headaches from the flashing lights. Captain Thex was furious. "Grix!" he yelled at his engineer. "Fix these problems now!" Grix was one of the pirates who felt sick. "Sir, I don't understand what's wrong. The systems were working fine yesterday. It's like the ship is fighting against us." "Ships don't fight back, you fool! Fix it!" But Grix couldn't fix it because he didn't know what was really wrong. Every time he thought he had solved one problem, the children would break something else. They turned off the heat in the crew quarters. They made the food processors produce terrible-tasting meals. They even managed to make the toilets overflow. The Velkari pirates were getting more and more frustrated. Some of them started to believe their ship was cursed. In the adult prisoner hold, Minho was listening to everything. He could hear the pirates complaining and arguing. He could hear systems breaking down, and he knew exactly who was causing the problems. "Those clever children," he said to himself with pride. But Minho was not just sitting and waiting. He was studying his prison and the guards who watched them. The Velkari thought they were smart by keeping the human adults locked up with metal chains and energy barriers. But they didn't understand that humans were good at making weapons from anything. Minho had already loosened one of the metal bars in his cage by working on it for hours when the guards weren't looking. He had made a sharp knife from a piece of broken plastic. Most importantly, he was watching the guard schedules and learning when they changed shifts. On the third day, the children's sabotage reached a new level. Jiho had figured out how to access the ship's communication system. When the pirates were trying to contact their base to report their success, Jiho made the system broadcast their location on an open channel that anyone could hear. "What was that?" Captain Thex demanded when he heard the transmission. "I don't know, sir," his communications officer said. "The system just sent out our coordinates. I didn't tell it to do that. Turn it off." "I'm trying, sir, but something is wrong with the controls." Captain Thex was starting to suspect that his human prisoners were more dangerous than he had thought, but he still didn't realize how dangerous. The broadcast had been heard by a Zephyrian trader ship 3 systems away. The captain immediately sent the information to human authorities. The hunt was getting closer. That night, while most of the crew was sleeping off their sickness, Minho made his move. He used his makeshift knife to cut through the last bit of metal holding his cage together. The other human prisoners watched in amazement as he slipped out like a shadow. Minho moved through the ship the same way he had moved through enemy territory during the war. Silent, invisible, deadly. He found the weapons locker and took several energy pistols. He found the guard schedules and memorized them. Most importantly, he found where the children were being kept. But instead of rushing to rescue them immediately, Minho made a different choice. He went to the ship's engine room and began setting up surprises for the pirates. If they wanted to treat humans like animals, they were about to learn what happened when the animals fought back. When the pirates discovered that Minho had escaped, panic spread through the ship like fire. They searched everywhere, but couldn't find him. It was like he had vanished into thin air. How does a human just disappear? Grix asked Captain Thex. Find him! Thex shouted. Search every room, every closet, every air vent. But Minho was already 3 steps ahead of them. While they searched the upper levels, he was in the lower levels, sabotaging their engines. While they guarded the prison areas, he was in their sleeping quarters, leaving little surprises that would activate later. The children, still hidden in the air vents, heard the pirates running around looking for Uncle Minho. They smiled at each other. They knew Uncle Minho was very good at hide and seek. Should we help him? Nari whispered. He told us to be smart and stay hidden, Jiho replied. But maybe we can make more trouble for the bad guys. The children's next target was the ship's food storage. They had learned that Velkari could not eat certain human foods that were harmless to humans. They found the ship's supply of emergency rations and carefully mixed human food preservatives into everything. By the 4th day, the Crimson Talon was falling apart. The crew was sick, exhausted, and terrified. Their ship's systems were failing, one by one. Strange sounds came from the walls. Equipment broke down for no reason. Some of the pirates started talking about giving up and returning the human prisoners. But Captain Thex refused to admit defeat. They're just humans, he kept saying. How can they be doing this to us? He was about to find out that underestimating humans was the most dangerous mistake anyone could make. In the air vents, Jiho and Nari were preparing their biggest surprise yet. And somewhere in the dark corners of the ship, Minho was getting ready to show the pirates exactly what a trained human soldier could do when someone threatened the children he was protecting. The real fight was about to begin. Admiral Hayun stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Soul's Fury, watching as more and more human ships appeared on her screens. What had started as a military rescue mission was turning into something much bigger, something that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we now have 43 ships in the fleet. More are arriving every hour. Hayun nodded. This was expected. When human children were in danger, every human felt the call to help. What's our current status on the search? We received a location broadcast 3 hours ago. The pirates are moving through the Cathara system. We're closing in. The Soul's Fury was the most powerful ship in the human fleet, but it was not alone. Captain Taman's merchant vessel Lucky Star flew alongside warships, its cargo holds now filled with weapons. Instead of grain, Commander Soyoung's patrol ship Braveheart had picked up 2 more civilian vessels that wanted to join the hunt. On the merchant ship, Captain Taman spoke to his crew. I know this isn't what you signed up for when you joined a trading ship. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the nearest station. His crew looked at him like he had said something crazy. Captain, his first officer said, those are human children out there. We're not going anywhere. Similar conversations were happening on dozens of ships. Humans who had never fired a weapon in anger were learning how to use military equipment. Cargo haulers were being converted into makeshift warships. Even pleasure yachts were joining the fleet, armed with whatever weapons their owners could find. The response was not just military, it was cultural, it was primal. It was everything that made humans different from other species in the galaxy. 3 systems away, Corvin the Velkari information broker was still trying to escape when human ships appeared in his system. He watched in terror as they systematically searched every station, every ship, every hiding place. The humans didn't ask questions. They didn't negotiate. They simply scanned for Velkari DNA and acted accordingly. Corvin watched his trading post get destroyed in minutes. 30 years of building his business, gone in an instant. "Sir," his assistant said, "they're not even talking to us. They're just hunting." Corvin understood now why Commander Vex had been so frightened. This wasn't war as other species understood it. This was extermination. The humans were systematically removing every Velkari presence they could find, making sure that no one who might have helped the pirates could escape justice. Other criminal organizations were learning the same lesson. A Kanthari smuggling ring that had done business with Velkari pirates found their entire operation destroyed overnight. A Thessian slave market that had bought Velkari goods was reduced to floating debris. The humans weren't just hunting the pirates who had taken their children. They were hunting everyone who had ever helped those pirates. Everyone who had ever bought from them. Everyone who had ever looked the other way when Velkari committed crimes. They're mapping the entire criminal network, Corvin realized. They're not just saving those children. They're making sure this never happens again. On the Crimson Talon, Captain Thex was finally starting to understand the magnitude of his mistake. His communications officer brought him reports that made his blood turn cold. "Sir, we're receiving messages from our contacts throughout the sector. The humans aren't just looking for us. They're destroying everyone. The Corvin trading post is gone. The Thessian markets are gone. Even the neutral stations are refusing to help anyone with Velkari DNA." Thex stared at the reports. "How many human ships?" "The count keeps going up, sir. Last report was over 60 ships and growing. 60 ships for 12 prisoners, for 2 human children." Thex was beginning to realize that he had not captured valuable slaves. He had declared war on the entire human species. "Sir," Grix said, "maybe we should consider returning the prisoners, as a gesture of goodwill." Thex turned on his engineer with fury. "You want to give up our profits because the humans are having a tantrum?" "Sir, with respect, this doesn't look like a tantrum. This looks like they're preparing to glass our entire homeworld." In the human fleet, Admiral Hayun was coordinating the largest hunting operation in human history. Her staff worked around the clock, tracking every possible escape route, every hiding place, every ally the pirates might try to reach. "Admiral," her aide Subin said, "some of the other species are asking if we're planning to stop the hunt after we rescue the children." Hayun looked at the young woman with cold eyes. "What do you think, Subin? I think we're going to hunt down every single being who had anything to do with this." "Correct. We're going to make an example that will last for 1,000 years. No species will ever think about threatening human children again." The human fleet had grown to over 80 ships now. Miners had abandoned their asteroid claims to join the hunt. Colonists had left their farms. Even human ships from other galaxies were racing toward the search zone. Captain Do-Yoon, a young human officer on his first command, led a squadron of converted civilian ships. His vessel had been a passenger liner just days ago. Now it carried enough firepower to level a small city. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "we're detecting Velkari energy signatures in the next system. Are they connected to the pirates?" "Unknown, sir. But they're Velkari." Do-Yoon thought about Jiho and Nari, 2 children he had never met but would die to protect. "That's enough. Prepare weapons." The systematic destruction of Velkari assets continued across 12 star systems. The humans weren't being cruel, they weren't torturing anyone, they were simply being thorough. Every Velkari ship, every Velkari base, every Velkari operation that might have supported piracy was being eliminated with cold, mechanical efficiency. Other species watched in horrified fascination. The humans had revealed something about themselves that no one had suspected. Under their friendly diplomatic exterior was something ancient and terrible, something that would fight with total dedication to protect their young. "They're like wolves," observed a Altarian diplomat. "Peaceful and friendly until you threaten their pack. Then they become something else entirely." The hunt was closing in on its target. The Crimson Talon was running out of places to hide, running out of allies, running out of time. Captain Thex could see the human fleet getting closer on his long range. "Scanners." "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." Admiral Hyun's voice filled the bridge of the pirate ship. It was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying. "This is Admiral Hyun of the Terran Navy. You have something that belongs to us. Return our children unharmed, and your deaths will be quick." Captain Thex found his voice. "Human Admiral, we can negotiate. Surely we can reach an agreement that benefits everyone." "You have 30 minutes to consider your options," Hyun replied. "After that, we will take our children back by force. And then we will hunt down every member of your species who has ever committed a crime against any sentient being. Your choice." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Crimson Talon in complete silence. Thex looked around at his crew. For the first time in his 30 years as a pirate, he was truly afraid. The humans were coming, and they were bringing hell with them. The Crimson Talon drifted in the debris field of Kithara, surrounded by the wreckage of 1,000 ancient battles. Captain Thex had chosen this hiding place because the metal debris would confuse enemy sensors. But the human fleet had found him anyway. 87 human ships formed a perfect sphere around the pirate vessel. From tiny civilian shuttles to the massive dreadnought Sol's Fury, they waited in complete silence. The sight was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. On the bridge of his ship, Captain Thex stared at the screens showing human vessels in every direction. There was no escape, no way out, no hope. "Sir," Grix whispered, "what do we do?" Thex's mind raced through possibilities. He could surrender, but humans didn't negotiate with people who hurt their children. He could fight, but one pirate ship against 87 human vessels was suicide. He could try to run, but there was nowhere to go. Then he thought of the two human children in his cargo hold. Maybe he could use them as shields. Maybe the humans would back down if he threatened to hurt their young. It was the last and worst mistake of his life. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Thex ordered. Admiral Hyun's face appeared on his screen. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held the cold fury of every human parent who had ever lost a child. "Captain Thex," she said, "you have one chance to surrender peacefully." "I have a better idea," Thex replied with false confidence. "You will withdraw your ships and let us go, or I will harm the human children. Your choice, Admiral." The silence that followed lasted exactly 10 seconds. Then Admiral Hyun spoke again, and her words would be remembered in military academies for centuries. "Harm those children, and we will hunt down every member of your species in this galaxy. We will find your homeworld. We will find your colonies. We will find every ship, every station, every rock where your people live, and we will turn them all to dust. Your choice, Captain." The transmission ended. Captain Thex felt his hands shaking as he realized what he had just done. He had not made a threat. He had signed his species' death warrant. In the air vents of the Crimson Talon, Jiho and Nari heard everything through the ship's communication system. They looked at each other. With grim determination, "Uncle Minho taught us about smoke grenades," Jiho whispered. The cleaning chemicals and the heat vents, Nari added, understanding immediately. The children crawled quickly through the air system to the ship's life support center. Jiho carefully mixed several cleaning chemicals together while Nari worked on the ventilation controls. They had learned from Uncle Minho that the right mixture would create thick, harmless smoke. "Ready?" Jiho asked. "Ready?" Nari replied. They activated their makeshift smoke system, and thick white clouds began pouring through the ship's air vents. The smoke was harmless to humans, but would make it impossible for anyone to see clearly. On the bridge, panic erupted as thick smoke filled every corridor. Emergency alarms blared. Pirates ran in all directions, coughing and stumbling in the confusion. "What's happening?" Captain Thex shouted. "Life support malfunction," Grix called back through the smoke. "The whole ship is filling with smoke." In the chaos, no one noticed a shadow moving through the corridors toward the bridge. Minho had been waiting for exactly this moment. While the pirates stumbled blind through the smoke, he moved with the precision of a trained soldier. The first guard never saw him coming. Minho struck silently, taking the alien's weapon and moving on. The second guard heard something but turned. Too late. Within minutes, Minho had eliminated 6 guards without making a sound. He reached the bridge just as Captain Thex was trying to activate the ship's emergency air system. The Velkari captain turned and found himself face to face with a human who looked like death itself. "You made a mistake," Minho said quietly, pointing an energy weapon at Thex's head. "You threatened children." But instead of pulling the trigger, Minho did something unexpected. He grabbed the ship's communication controls and opened a channel to the human fleet. "Admiral Hayun, this is Minho. The children are safe. I'm taking control of this ship." Admiral Hayun's voice came back immediately. "Minho, are you injured?" "No, ma'am. Neither are the children. But these pirates need to learn about human justice. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy." Instead of killing Captain Thex, Minho forced him to watch as the pirate's own crew turned against him. The smoke had cleared and the Velkari pirates could see the human ships surrounding them. They could hear their captain's threats against human children being broadcast on all frequencies. They realized that their leader had doomed them all. "This is First Officer Yix," came a voice over the ship's intercom. "I am relieving Captain Thex of command and surrendering this vessel to the human fleet." On the bridge, Grix and 3 other pirates had stunned their captain with their own weapons. They looked at Minho with something like respect. "Human soldier," Yix said carefully, "we were following orders. We never wanted to hurt the young ones." Minho studied the alien's face. "That's for the human courts to decide. But you made the right choice here." The surrender of the Crimson Talon was broadcast throughout the galaxy. But the human fleet was far from finished. Admiral Hayun addressed the entire human force. "The children are safe. Our primary mission is complete, but our larger mission is just beginning." What followed was the implementation of Protocol 7, something the galaxy had never seen before. The Terran Navy established a complete blockade of Velkari space. No ships could enter or leave their territory without human approval. Every Velkari vessel in human space was inspected. Those involved in piracy were destroyed. Those involved in legitimate trade were allowed to leave, but with a warning that they could never return. The economic impact was immediate and devastating. The Velkari had relied on trade with other species for many essential goods. Now they were completely cut off from the galactic economy. Within weeks, Velkari society began to change. Young Velkari like Do Yoon attended mandatory education sessions. about human culture and the importance of protecting children in all species. Today we learn about human protective instincts, his instructor explained to a room full of young Valkyrie. Humans are one of the few species that will risk everything to protect not just their own young, but the young of other species as well. Do-yoon raised his hand. Teacher, why are humans so different? Because they understand something that many species forget, the instructor replied. The young are the future. Anyone who threatens the future of a species threatens everything that species believes in. On Earth, Jiho and Nari were finally reunited with their parents. The children had become heroes throughout human space. But they just wanted to go home and play with their toys. Uncle Minho, Jiho asked, will the bad aliens ever try to take human children again? Minho smiled and ruffled the boy's hair. No, little one. I don't think they will. And he was right. The galaxy had learned its lesson. In the years that followed, crime against humans dropped to almost zero. Other species began copying human methods of protecting their young. Even the most ruthless pirates learned to identify human ships and avoid them completely. The Valkyrie spent the next 10 years proving they had changed their society. They eliminated piracy from their culture entirely. They established schools to teach their young about respecting other species. They even created monuments to remember the human children they had wronged. Finally, Admiral Hayun herself came to inspect their progress. She met with Valkyrie leaders and toured their reformed society. After careful consideration, she announced that the blockade would be lifted. You have learned, she told the Valkyrie Council, that some things are more important than profit. Some lines should never be crossed. Some mistakes can never be repeated. The Valkyrie had learned indeed. They had learned that humans were not the peaceful, harmless species they appeared to be. They had learned that threatening human children was the most dangerous mistake any species could make. Most importantly, they had learned that there was no force in the galaxy more dangerous than humans who believed children were in danger. The story spread to every corner of known space. It was told in 1,000 languages on 1,000,000 worlds, and everywhere it was told, the message was the same. Humans protect their young. Always, without exception, without mercy. Remember this lesson. Well,